cars. I've never gotten here this early before. I'm usually here like an hour or so after they start running cars, but I'm here about an hour earlier than normal. And car was 15 degrees cooler than the last time I drove it here. And the trans temp got up to like 115, so that's not too bad, but there's definitely a difference. Alright, so it's really busy today. Probably only gonna get one pass. I do work tomorrow. It's like 6:30 right now. So I'm just gonna make one pass and then I'm gonna go home after this. So I wanted to do like a test pass to the 8th just to see how the track was, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So I did make another tune. I added 1 degree up top, like above 6,000 RPM, above 15 pounds. So added 1 degree. So I also changed some parameters for like my lights and my fans. So my radiator fan, coolant fan, my radiator fan, my trans fan, and my head and tail lights shut off if I'm over 80% throttle. So it'll take some of the electrical load off of it. I don't have the bigger pulley on. I just have the regular factory size pulley, so it's going to stop charging at about 6,000 RPM, but at least it won't have that electrical load on it drawing the battery down. And then I'll figure out the pulley situation later. I don't want to throw the belt, so that's kind of the strategy. Added 1 degree up top from the last pass, so we'll see what that does. The plugs looked a little bit safe, and it had a paper gasket in it, so my thought is that if the timing was safe enough to not blow the paper gasket out of it, it should be okay. So we'll see how that goes. right, if you heard in the previous clip, they stopped me on the return road and said that the car was leaking something. So the tower called back to them and said that the car had leaked something. So they didn't see a leak. I didn't see a leak. It didn't see like anything spraying, didn't think anything of it. So he stopped me and said that there was a leak, and you can see him mopping behind me right now, looking at this in hindsight here because I'm seeing the footage and explaining what happened. But he looks under the car and sees there's a leak. So he runs up to the side and he tries to stop me, but I didn't see him at all. So I launched and went for it, and car felt like it made a good pass. It obviously did make a good pass. It was 880, and I was none the wiser. I had no idea there was anything leaking at all. So there was kind of some discussion back and forth between, like my wife was there, Hunter was there, Trevor was there. They were all like kind of talking back and forth with what they saw, what they heard, and they said somebody said it was oil leaking, and somebody said it was like fluid, transmission fluid. No idea what it was, and I'm like looking all over the car back to when I got back to the pits because they said it was a leak, and I inspected the whole car, looked over everything underneath the car. There was no puddles, nothing was leaking, but we could smell fuel. So started the car up, and one of the fuel lines behind my intake above the transmission, like the loop that goes from like the crossover that goes from one rail to the other rail, the AN hose was like kinked a little bit, and it was actually leaking through the hose. It kind of changed the mood finding out that it was a fuel leak, with kind of how lucky that, I mean, this could have been a lot worse. So ended up, you'll see in the next clips, ended up fixing the line, and it was, I don't know, it was enough there. You can see what the leak looked like. It must have started when I was on the way there or something, because it wasn't leaking in the garage. It wasn't, because I went, I just got done doing the head gaskets on this and put everything back together the night before, and I tested everything when I started it up, and it wasn't leaking. Like, checked everything for leaks. Nothing was leaking at all. So it must have started leaking sometime between leaving the house and like getting into the staging lanes, because it looks like it was dripping already a little bit. So maybe it started in the burnout, because there was like no fuel smell or anything. We were standing outside the car in the staging lanes, and there was just nothing there. So maybe it started in the burnout, and I had no idea. And that, I guess that stuff happens. But and this was AN line too. It wasn't like a cheap line. This was, AN line, decent fittings. Everything was nice. Holly rails. Like, it's not junk stuff that I had for this, because I don't usually like to go cheap on the fuel line sections. But this thing was leaking. So maybe I'm not driving it home yet. There's a fuel line that has a leak on it. So it must have happened as I was on the brake, it like punctured a hose or something. It's leaking a little bit under the car. So I'm gonna run and get some fittings for it so I can drive it home. But there's the slip. 133 60 foot, 124 56 to the 8th. 880.
Good job, buddy.
We got the car fixed. Basically, I ran home and I pulled the crossover hose off of the Ranger. I have like a push lock 8AN line on the Ranger. So I just went home quick and grabbed that. That was actually like a perfect fitting. It has two 90s on it, and it goes under the throttle body on the Ranger, but fits now. Everything's good. All right, so I fixed that hose. Crossover hose. I took the hose from the truck, put it on here. We're gonna drive home now. Hunter's gonna stay and make another pass. It's like 9 o'clock. I gotta get up early in the morning for work, so I'm just gonna go home. sent the wife on a secret mission. We're back close to our neighborhood right now, so it's late at night and I don't want to be disruptive. So I sent her a little ways ahead so she can go home in the house and open the garage door quick so I can just slide right in. Alright. Alright, so I'm home now.
You're never coming back.
I am coming back, but the door wasn't open, so I just drove past. Down the other street. Too noisy.